2018 was one of the biggest years in regards to video games, due to the initial releases of both Red Dead Redemption 2, which is a sequel to the first Red Dead Redemption game, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Small note before we continue on to this video, there will be a few times that I will go a bit off topic, but I do want to try to keep it as much as I possibly can in regards to racing, much like I did for my Need for Speed Most Wanted 2012 video. So hear me out. If you hear me mention about some other games that are outside of racing, do understand that I'm just picking out on certain aspects that I like the most. As in 2018, there wasn't really much of a big release on racing games, but there was an interesting few that caught my attention so far. One of them being, of course, Forza Horizon 4. Now don't get me wrong when I say this, it isn't that bad, but you may have been one of the few people that have seen AR12's live streams or even videos in regards to this game.
Welcome back to Forza Horizon 4!
Or even Deoxide for whatever randomness is posted up on that channel, or maybe even Shiny Odd, and may have seen that one video where he got banned from Forza Horizon 4. Or even The Crew 2. And I'm gonna go straight under the bus with this by throwing out a warning. I would straight up abolish this and Motorfest from ever being played, considering the fact that it requires an internet connection just to play those games, even in single player. And also Wreckfest.
Out of 10 would recommend.
And let's not forget, last but not least, Super Street the game. Wait, what the fuck? Oh dear God, no. Okay, so we're gonna simply go off by saying that Super Street the game was developed by Team 6 Game Studios, published by Lion Castle Entertainment in September 11, 2018. So how did Super Street ended up to be something that was overhyped, yet eventually became the most hated game of all time? Well, it's simple. We need to go back and look into their old website. And I probably would have said the same thing for Instagram too, since they had some interesting tidbits before the game actually released. But yeah, their page is not inside of Instagram anymore. I don't know when they removed this. And the reason why will become evident when we get through this video. So in order for me to be able to backtrack into Super Street the Games' pre-existing old Instagram account, we're gonna have to do the thing and take one of Blackpantha's videos for this example. But without any further commotion to prevent this video from getting anywhere, let's go ahead and jump into this. Development blog number 1, announcing Super Street the game. It states here, what an amazing week. We finally had a sweet delight to review that we're working on the first official Super Street game. Super Street the game. Already, this is starting to become bad right now, just reading by these news posts. First things first, there's no need to say Super Street 2 times back to back. I mean, I get it. You're probably trying to do this to make a video game based on a motor magazine. You could have rephrased it more better by saying that you guys were going to make an official racing game for this magazine known as Super Street. Because the way I see it from this post, it looks like you're going to loop the same thing over and over again. Like saying the same name over and over again instead of actually getting to the point. The game was reported to be releasing in 2018 and will be making its way to the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and even Steam. There wasn't just that, there was also a Nintendo Switch port, if some of you may have not noticed or may have not remembered about it. I have that version and I could not refund it at the time, but I will say that it is the exact same thing. There is no difference overall. The game will strive to bring the best of the classic Street Racer. Actually, I'm gonna be the judge of that based on the experience of playing this game with the footage amount of 1 hour and 19 minutes. All in which case to prove my point in regards to this game. However, before that, we gotta look over that small little clip for the Instagram of Super Street the game.
This is the trailer they released to tell you that the game is coming out very, very soon. Very nice, cool animation coming August 3rd. But as you will learn, going through their social media, the only bit of gameplay we actually have is that car drifting around the corner.
You heard that specifically from Blackpanthaa himself. Just that one little clip of a car drifting. And that was all the gameplay footage you could ever see inside of the Instagram of Super Street the game. To most people who were actually looking into this game and were interested, they might have found this interesting. However, for me, I find something very fucking suspicious. And that's even being said as to how all of this footage is put out. But no worries, like I said, I have my footage and I'm going to show you through in my eyes as to what the big deal was. And here comes Super Street the game. Oh god, this is bad. Here I was at my first few moments of trying to play this game, and all I hear is just loud music playing while I was recording this. Aside that, whether you did or did not do the tutorial, the first thing you'll be encountering upon the first few seconds of playing this game is choosing your first car. But I do have to point out that there was something different about this menu.
Want to know the project car? Are you sure? No, I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, they changed it into this now, considering the fact that people would be mad that you're only able to drive one car only in the earlier version of this game. That is being said, considering the fact that Team 6 Studios has been updating this game all the way up to March of 2019. But after that update, the team has gone fairly quiet and didn't even mention about making another update. I wonder why. Oh yeah, now I know why. Nobody is really playing the game. Even if there was some people playing this game, I really doubt that there's a big number of people. Anyways, back to topic. So looking through the car lot, there was a few interesting choices that you could pick through when you're playing through this game. And I have chosen this piece of junk to be my first car. Now I know fair enough that I don't own a Lancer or an Evolution of any variation, but I do drive a 4-door. But besides that, I made the choice and it was finally time to go through the campaign. Into the settings tab first off, considering the fact that my game was laggy as crap and that the music is loud enough to where I couldn't even hear myself talking in that same clip earlier, and the fact that the soundtrack inside this game is god awful. Like, I'd be a little bit more better off they add a little bit of Snoop Dogg or maybe even 50 Cent and I'll be going on my way to play this game. But I'm certain enough that at the time that Team 6 Studios were making this game, they had poor tastes of music and thought that that would be actually good enough for the game. And if you thought that was bad enough, then need I remind you that the graphic settings is ultimately bad at the same time too. I changed everything, even hit apply and went on to my first race, and all of a sudden I noticed when I got to my first race is that it was still laggy as fuck. I can't wait to see how bad this will go. If you're one of the few people who actually enjoyed this game, you're probably one of the few who think that the other people who played racing games are way out of their minds to think that this was bad. Because in all honesty, this game feels like a low-end, maybe even a mobile port. And that time, it was back to the settings again, only to realize that my settings for the graphics have reverted back to the way they were. I legitimately did this when I was in the menu. Why the fuck do I gotta do it when I'm in the middle of a race, god damn it? This is at least one, but a small reason as to why this game is bad, because the settings menu didn't even work inside of the main menu. Instead, you gotta go in the middle of a race and do the settings from there. But after retinkering the settings, in which case Team 6 Studios fucked up ultimately, it was about time for me to get back into the race. Now, I'm fine enough with the racing in any kind of racing game, but when it came to this one specifically, it feels janky as hell. So racing inside of this game was problematic for me. While doing this time trial, I was trying to do my best and try to beat it, but as far as I'm concerned, I reached up to either at least second or third place. For some people who probably enjoy a game like this, probably think that I'm bad enough that I couldn't even acquire first place in a time trial like this. Well, guess what? This will be the only time I've ever played this game. Besides, there's a lot of faults that came from this game anyways that I'd rather be playing something else, like this reset that I clicked for no apparent reason and can't seem to get out of. No, I don't want to respawn. Well, at least that shitty time trial is over. Now, we all know how a time trial works inside of a racing game, but Super Street has taken a different approach. It functions like a sprint race where you're at one destination and you got to get to another. The thing about this game, though, is that it punishes you heavily if you fucked up. Even a tiny smidge to a point where you gotta restart the race. And this applies for every single race too, by crashing into immovable objects to cars, whether you did or didn't crash out. Seriously. But if you get through this game like a bad line of code, or better yet, figuring out everything in regards as to how this game works, you might be able to not use your restart, but more likely use the reset button instead. However, crashing out is not just the only problem that exists in regards to how bad this game goes through in regards to racing, but also the layout of the race course that you're actually going up against. And this applies for any kind of game mode that you play so far through this game. From certain racetracks like learning curves, where you don't really suffer from very much besides the AI that was made for the racing overall. To certain courses like crossing tracks, and boy oh boy, it made me want to pop veins so badly, because of one, how badly made the AI is to race against you inside this course, much like any other one, and two, small grassy terrains that fuck you over by forcing you to jump through them. Can I please stop jumping for no apparent reason? I know in my brain I was probably gonna say that the experience of this game was gonna be bad, but the good thing is that I was a quick learner to go through all of this. But that doesn't simply change the fact that what I'm experiencing is bad, if not, could grow even more worse throughout the gameplay. Strongly said for the AI. And I'm gonna be serious when I say that inside of this game, the AI is missing the I, the intelligence part, which ultimately leads me to say that every single CPU driver inside of this game is absolutely retarded as fuck. Yes, they follow the racing line, but the problematic thing is that there's a good chance they'll crash into a traffic car, or even into other CPU drivers, and especially you. If you think that's bad enough, then you're in for a little surprise, because sometimes inside this game, the AI will pile up into, well, a pile, even if driving in a straight line. And they say the AI is advanced in this game. Yeah, right. Looking for the next event to go through, I found one that is specifically called Joyride, so I went for that one. While this is basically free roam, it's taking a small concept of turbo dismount. You're just basically driving around inside a Joyride and causing a lot of destruction before time runs out. And what I gotta say about this game mode is, I don't know. I don't really like it, but I guess it's alright. My only problem is trying to utilize whatever is in my surroundings to gain a lot of points, because of the gameplay physics and mechanics overall. Meanwhile, Sprint, on the other hand, this is basically Midnight Clubs' on-order checkpoint races, only in the worst way possible. Because what this game mode is taking that concept plus putting in time trial at the same time, and boom, that's how this exists. Which eventually leads me to say that this is the worst form of sprint racing I've ever seen to exist inside of a racing game. Like, if you're gonna try to make a sprint race inside of this game, at least build up a hint, take EA's as example, and just go from there. And in general, honestly, the only game mode I like so far out of the rest would only be time trial, because at least I wouldn't have to deal with the other problems. Circuit racing is watered down because the AI is straight up so fucking dumb inside of this game. Joyride was basically the worst take on turbo dismount and was on the cutting room, and straight up was never used nor mentioned ever again. And cruising inside of this game, well, let me just say that it's straight up easily forgettable throughout the whole entire experience. And while there was an interesting array of cars to choose from inside of this game, I obviously, as most other races, chose my own car, just to continue delivering the fact as to how much of a broken down piece of shit this game is. Cruising inside of this game is exactly the same way as the free roaming inside of any other racing game. You just basically drive around inside of the city and do whatever the hell you absolutely want. all in which case gets boring real easily, as there is no other form of AI aside the traffic vehicles, and cops were never really added into the game as a whole. Considering how Team 6 made this game, I'm not even surprised that much like all the other events that are just annoying because of some flaws they have, that cruising would be absolutely boring at some certain point. Most likely when you first boot up cruising inside of this game, because the only thing you can do inside of cruising is drive around freely, cause some wreckage, or even just crash into traffic cars, and that's just about it. But yeah, this is fucking boring. And the eliminator racing is basically the same way as standard racing. The only thing is you need to make sure that you're not the last one eliminated. I'm not really sorry for saying this, but the best game I've ever seen to evolutionize the eliminator races would be the Project Gotham Racing series, mainly Project Gotham Racing 4. And much like most other racing games, you got multiplayer. One, of course, being online, and the other being split screen. But I'm not even gonna bother because split screen inside of PC is mostly horrendous. And I have only one wired Xbox controller, which I used for the footage of this video. And also, I didn't have anyone around me who seeks interest into this game. But, online though, I probably shouldn't even have bothered in the first place because there legitimately is no one playing this game. Not even online multiplayer. Just like Flatout 3 online mode after its first few days. Now that we have mentioned the horrendous events that you can play through inside of this game, unless I am missing any more, it's now time for me to talk about the gameplay physics and mechanics based on the drivability and the crashability of your vehicles inside of this game. Steering inside of this game just straight up feels terrible. Even though if I'm reaching up to a lot of speed, say like 150 miles per hour, I still feel like I'm driving through a tank based on the steering. If I'm gonna go straight forward and play a game, and if I want to feel like I'm driving a tank based on steering, I might as well go play War Thunder by now. Another problem I find within inside of this game would be the braking. Here's how I visualize braking within the experience of this game. It will not make a difference if you change your sway bars, suspension kits, tires, or even the brakes themselves inside of this game, because your brakes overall feels like they have been unserviced. Whether it be that the material on your brake pad is either damaged or worn out, or that there's no brake fluid inside of the car overall. And it feels like that every single time you go out racing inside this game. And if anything, a pain in the ass to deal with inside this game, much like the steering physics and mechanics. And nitrous inside of this game, well, let's go with this little makeshift sitcom that I created just for this video.
Hey you.
You talking to me?
Yes you. Do you like nitro's? Do you like playing NFS Underground 2 and turning nitro's by doing stunts? Well look no further because we have a game to recreate that in the worst way possible, Super Street game.
N2O, or better yet known as nitrous oxide, has always been something that would be taken into consideration for racing games, and Super Street is one of the few games that utilizes that mechanic, though it utilizes more of an older format, so you gotta hold down the nitrous button in order to actually use the nitrous, much like most of the other games. But in this regard, Team 6 Game Studios decided to take notes from Need for Speed Underground 2 and try to utilize the same nitrous system from there. It actually does make sense that I picked Need for Speed Underground 2 more than any other Need for Speed out there, because earning nitrous is stunt based. In Super Street, the game, you don't really earn any nitrous by just simply driving straight, and that's just about it. The few stunts to do while trying to earn nitrous in NFSU is committing a 360, a burnout for however long you decide to keep that burnout going, avoiding collision from other traffic vehicles no matter what side you're on, power sliding, which is another term for drifting, drafting your rivals' cars whether you are or aren't racing against them, hang time, or better yet known as how long you could keep your car in the air for. That's at least a few that I could name right there. That was the form of perspective that Team 6 wanted to go by for the nitrous, but of course, different. Because not only that, but smashing into objects actually allows you to earn nitrous. However, there is one thing that can't get into my mind right now in regards to drifting inside of this game. You have to remember full well that for the most part, if you're going to earn nitrous inside of this game, you're going to have to be drifting around corners. But somehow, the game calculates that me turning a corner counts as drifting. And that even applies to every single narrow corner you could take inside of this game. All in which case ultimately defeats the entire purpose of a stunt-based system to earn nitrous. Much like the gameplay physics and mechanics inside of this game, based on drivability and braking overall, nitrous is broken and miscalculated. Even if it does me good on the long run within some of these races, my point still stands out as to how it works. And we all know who to blame for this. You should understand by now, Team 6, that gaming changes by day, week, month, and even year as time goes by. All to a point where some people are beta testing for certain games like Forza Horizon or even Test Drive Unlimited as of recent. Something you haven't done asides them is beta testing, because at the time you didn't even select a few people to actually try this game out and see how it goes. And at the same time, you didn't even try playing your own games and see if it was good or not and see what needed to be changed. And even if you did, your only moral compass to make you seem like you're a good gaming studio is the fact that you're gonna say, oh no, this game's actually good the way it is. Because in hindsight, after this game is released, you were given a fair share of criticism. All in which case from both people who played this game on Steam, Xbox, and even PlayStation, as well as the game journalists that played this game too. And this might not be true, but in possibility, you've done nothing in regards to following this criticism. And possibly hidden your little rabbit hole, which is known to be Team 6 Game Studios, done nothing but being angry and crying like little bitches about the criticism you were given. And no, we're not talking about updates that are just basically baby piss since Flatout 3, and we're not talking about the shit show that is just the one and only car thing. We're talking about the physics and mechanics of the gameplay overall, because the gameplay of this game
is a huge, hot, heaping pile of horse.
There's more to this game than meets the eye, as there's not only problems throughout the gameplay physics and mechanics overall, but there is problems within the game in general outside of racing. And here is how it goes. First things first would be the soundtrack list. I can somewhat understand that Team 6 was trying to go with a more modernistic feel in regards to street racing inside of this game. Yet none of them inside of the racing overall feels like you're actually getting into the groove while in the middle of racing. And playing the menu theme within this game for the first few seconds sounds really disgusting, and I'm not saying that in a good way. I'm saying the music choice is really horrendous inside of this game. Good God, that song choice is disgusting. If I were someone who had music choices all while playing a video game, whether it be a racing game or not, I would prefer listening to the Gauntlet from Payday 2, and at the same time get the feeling like I'm gonna get pianoed by a fucking bulldozer.
Who wants a piece of me?
I forgot one more thing before I start getting into this even further. Remember how I mentioned crashability earlier inside this video? I did state out that I forgot about that part, so we're gonna go ahead and go back and we're gonna talk about it. Why? But no worries, we'll go through this with our favorite forgettable game mode, also known as cruising. If Team 6 was going to add in destruction to a racing game like this, then there would be a good chance they needed to add in the crash physics and mechanic. Though it would make some sense if I would say that the damage models inside this game are over exaggerated. And here's what I mean about this. While driving around 30 miles per hour, you could crash into a wall and your front bumper starts to deform as soon as you hit it. And if that's not enough, then reversing into a wall at slow speeds will be another thing too. Reversing at a slow pace towards a wall, and then the result, your car is already deformed. I just can't stand the damage models that exist inside this game. I can easily compare this to BeamNG Drive. Even if that game has its own exaggeration in regards to the damage models and physics, it wasn't over exaggerated while driving at slow speeds. And here's the comparison between both games. And there is your difference between crash physics and models between two games. Of course, inside of BeamNG Drive, I had to reverse a little bit more quicker to be able to actually damage the truck. And if I had to pick a game that was better in regards to damage physics, mechanics, and models, it would be BeamNG Drive. Now I can't really say that this is true, but supposedly campaign inside this game is basically story mode. There's no cutscenes, no special characters, nothing like that, except for a small dialogue box that comes in about you and your car. Congrats, you're featured. Wow, it seems that you got noticed. Someone took a picture of your car yesterday and shared it on their feed. What, did they share it on the feed and say the car is a piece of crap? I bet they did. They must have seen how poorly made this car is. Just like how poorly made this game is overall. Besides that though, we need to talk about the car customization overall. Of course, working with the exterior, also known as your front bumpers, your side skirts, your hood, your headlights, your taillights, your rear bumpers could change how the car looks, but can also affect the performance in regards to how your car handles, not just the show factor. And other specific upgrades such as exhaust systems, engine swaps, turbos, nitrous, suspension, as well as tires and brakes, all do take roles in regards to making your car either go fast or handle very well within corners. But there's just about one thing I've learned from the gameplay of this game when I'm modifying my vehicles. As you may have seen when I was selecting brakes for this car, it doesn't matter if you pick the cheapest or the most expensive product within the game, as for every single performance part works the exact same way no matter which one you choose differently. This applies for every single vehicle modification, but apparently this doesn't apply to engine swaps. That's another flaw for this game, is the upgrade system that's set out to be. At this rate, I could have instantly beaten this game with the most cheapest products and worry about engine swaps more than anything. And that's not the only problem I have in regards to going to the garage inside this game. You could select the crew tab inside this game, and what you have in store is nothing more than a cheerleading jamboree of women inside this game. If this were to be the case, then Team 6 should have focused on making this game a dating simulator instead of a goddamn racing game. Plus, once you play through it and you either beat the campaign and you play something else, or you just instantly refund this game, these characters are straight up forgettable, just like the rest of the game itself. Now, I can't really say if this is correct or not, but I do happen to believe in my mind that there has probably been a few people that defended this game for the time being, despite Team 6 Game Studios having plenty of faults while developing this game, which led to multiple criticisms, and again, the flaws in regards to driving physics and mechanics. And since I covered this video in regards to multiple faults made by Team 6 and the flaws that were built inside of this game, I could be sincere as to what I would say. I love to hate this game. And much like every single other racing game that I play out there, whether it's recorded or not, I would not go out of my way to defend it. Unlike someone who happens to be this guy. Yeah, no, if there wasn't any updates in regards to the gameplay, physics, and mechanics, mainly because Team 6 didn't want to do any updates in regards to that, then this game was doomed to die on the very first day of release. But besides that, it's time to get to the final thoughts about this game. And I decided to bring in a few extra clips to bring in the final thoughts as to what I prefer better than this game. The crash cams inside of this game are pointless and needless, and in all honesty, sucks donkey balls. Yeah, no, the crash cams inside of this game is so bad that I prefer to take Burnout Paradise's crash cams any day of the week. You call this drifting? I can hop into Horizon 3 on my Xbox One anytime and enjoy the drifting there. It didn't look like I drifted inside of the Super Street clip, and there's a reason for that. You have to constantly mash down your E-brake button to make it seem like you're actually drifting around a corner inside of this game. I do fancy the idea of building my car from the ground up, however, May not be an easy game at first, but I prefer Street Legal Racing Redline to build my car from the ground up. Or there is, of course, Car Mechanic Simulator for Plan B. The soundtrack? Again, the Gauntlet from Payday 2.
We call this a difficulty tweak.
The full-on gameplay itself? Screw that, I'm better off playing Underground 2, Carbon, or even Most Wanted 05. Or maybe even Street Racing Syndicate, since that's inside of my Steam library. The ultimate conclusion to this whole entire video is specifically by 3 words. Fuck this game. Because in all honesty, I just bought this game for $5.99 on a special Steam sale, recorded a little bit of gameplay for this video, then uninstalled it after doing that and refunded the game, because even if it was at a reasonably priced, you still want your money back either way after you played up to the first 2 hours of this game. And after all of that, what is done is just done, and the same applies for this video. Thank you all for watching it. Feel free to leave a like, a comment, and subscribe if you want to, and as always, I shall see you into the next episode. See ya. Hold on, one more error before I actually wrap this up. Your car can still drive in reverse while spinning around.